Create a mental shutdown ritual. Prepare the mind for deep sleep. One of the most overlooked yet incredibly powerful techniques for improving sleep, especially deep, restorative sleep, is developing a consistent mental shutdown ritual. In modern life, the human mind is rarely given permission to truly rest. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with stimuli, emails, social media notifications, work demands, family responsibilities, and an endless stream of content. This constant stimulation keeps our brains in a hyper-aroused state, known in psychology as cognitive hyperarousal, which is one of the major causes of insomnia and disturbed sleep patterns. The human brain operates in different states, characterized by brain waves: beta alert, alpha relaxed, theta light sleep, and delta deep sleep. When we're multitasking or mentally active late into the evening, we remain in the beta state, making it hard to transition into alpha or deeper levels necessary for sleep. Mastering the 10-3-2-1-0 sleep formula, a neurobehavioral blueprint for better sleep. In the realm of sleep science and behavioral psychology, one of the most elegant, research-backed frameworks for optimizing nightly rest is the 10-3-2-1-0 rule, a deceptively simple sleep hygiene method that, when consistently practiced, has the potential to rewire your circadian rhythms, rebalance your neurochemistry, and fundamentally improve the depth and efficiency of your sleep cycles. This rule encapsulates a set of time-based behavioral boundaries that help prepare the body and mind to ease into sleep with less resistance, more biological synchronicity, and reduced internal friction. Each numerical component of the 10-3-2-1-0 method targets a different aspect of the sleep equation, from neurochemical stimulation to digestive activity, emotional rumination, light exposure, and finally, morning inertia. When these components work in harmony, they create an ideal neurobiological and psychological environment conducive to deep, high-quality sleep. Let's begin by unpacking the 10, which refers to the elimination of caffeine 10 hours before bedtime. Caffeine, a psychoactive stimulant found in coffee, tea, energy drinks, and even dark chocolate, works by blocking the action of adenosine, a naturally occurring neurochemical that builds up in the brain throughout the day and contributes to the sensation of sleep pressure. Think of adenosine as sand slowly filling a sleep hourglass. When enough has accumulated, you begin to feel drowsy. Caffeine is like flipping that hourglass upside down. Even though you may not feel wired, the half-life of caffeine is around 5 to 6 hours, meaning that a cup of coffee at 4 p.m. could still be affecting your brain at 10 p.m. This is particularly detrimental to slow-wave sleep SWS, the deep, restorative phase of sleep essential for memory consolidation, emotional detox, and cellular repair. Numerous polysomnography studies have shown that even small amounts of caffeine consumed in the late afternoon can delay sleep onset, increase nighttime awakenings, and reduce total sleep efficiency. Therefore, cutting off caffeine a full 10 hours before sleep is not just a recommendation, it's a non-negotiable for optimizing the brain's readiness for rest. The 2 in the rule signifies no more work, mental or physical, within 2 hours of bedtime. This is perhaps the most difficult yet most impactful behavioral shift for modern professionals. In our hyper-connected world, the boundary between work and rest has become blurred, with laptops and smartphones extending the workday deep into the evening. This habit keeps the brain in a task-oriented, dopamine-driven loop that inhibits the natural descent into sleep. Psychologically, engaging in cognitively demanding tasks, such as replying to emails, preparing presentations, or solving problems, keeps the brain in a state of high beta wave activity, which is incompatible with the alpha theta transition required for sleep onset. Moreover, Mental stress elevates cortisol levels, which act as a biological antagonist to melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating your sleep-wake cycle. The result? You may be lying in bed physically still but mentally racing, trapped in the liminal space between wakefulness and rest. Ending work at least 2 hours before bed allows your brain to decelerate, transition into a reflective rather than reactive state, and psychologically detach from the identity of the worker, which is crucial for emotional and neurological reset. The 1 represents screen shutdown, no blue light exposure 1 hour before bed. This component targets the suprachiasmatic nucleus SCN, the brain's master clock located in the hypothalamus. The SCN is highly sensitive to light, particularly the blue wavelengths emitted by phones, tablets, computers, and LED lights. Exposure to blue light suppresses melatonin production, delays circadian rhythms, and causes what researchers call circadian misalignment, a state in which your biological clock is out of sync with your desired sleep schedule. This is not a minor issue. Chronic circadian misalignment has been linked to a higher risk of depression, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline. By turning off all screens an hour before sleep and replacing them with analog activities like reading a paperback book, journaling, or having a face-to-face conversation, you signal to your brain that nighttime has arrived. Bonus tip: consider using amber-tinted glasses or night shift filters on your devices in the hours leading up to bedtime to mitigate residual blue light if screen avoidance isn't possible. Finally, the 0 stands for the number of times you should hit the snooze button in the morning. Ideally, 0. This might seem unrelated to sleep onset, but it speaks to a deeper neurological concept called sleep inertia. When you wake up and hit snooze repeatedly, you confuse the brain's natural waking mechanisms. Instead of transitioning into full alertness, you plunge back into fragmented sleep stages, which worsens grogginess and cognitive fog. More importantly, hitting snooze trains your brain to associate waking with stress and resistance, creating a negative feedback loop that makes waking up harder each day. By waking up at a consistent time, ideally with natural light or a gradual light alarm clock, you strengthen your body's circadian rhythm and improve your ability to fall asleep the next night. This is called circadian anchoring, and it is critical for long-term sleep health. The power of sleep triggering sense, how olfactory psychology deepens sleep naturally. One of the most fascinating yet underrated frontiers in the science of sleep enhancement lies not in what you see or think, but in what you smell. The olfactory system, our sense of smell, is directly wired into the brain's most ancient and emotional centers, namely the limbic system, which includes the amygdala emotional memory, the hippocampus long-term memory and learning, and the hypothalamus, which regulates sleep, hunger, body temperature, and circadian rhythms. Unlike visual or auditory stimuli, scents bypass the cerebral cortex, the rational thinking part of the brain, and go straight to these primal structures. This is why a certain fragrance can instantly evoke deep, emotional memories or shift your entire mood. The implications of this are profound when it comes to preparing the brain for sleep. Research in olfactory neuroscience has shown that specific natural scents have the ability to lower heart rate, reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, increase parasympathetic nervous system activity, and elevate the production of melatonin, the body's natural sleep hormone. Let's begin with the psychological principle behind scent association. In behavioral psychology, this is known as classical conditioning, a process made famous by Ivan Pavlov. Just as dogs were trained to associate the sound of a bell with food, humans can be conditioned to associate certain smells with a feeling of calm and sleep. For example, if you diffuse lavender essential oil every night before bed as part of your sleep ritual, over time, Your brain will begin to associate the scent with the process of relaxation and the onset of sleep. This works even if you travel or change environments. The scent acts as a portable psychological anchor, helping you replicate your sleep environment anywhere in the world. Scent conditioning is not just a placebo. It engages real, measurable changes in the autonomic nervous system, shifting your physiology into a state that is more receptive to rest. The benefits of olfactory sleep aids extend beyond just helping you fall asleep faster. They also influence sleep architecture, particularly the proportion of time spent in restorative stages like stage N3 deep sleep and REM rapid eye movement sleep. These stages are crucial for memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and cellular repair. Inadequate deep sleep has been linked to a host of problems, including impaired immune function, mood disorders, and even an increased risk for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. The use of sleep triggering scents helps protect and enhance these vital biological processes by reducing the frequency of microarousals, brief awakenings that you may not even remember, but that disturb your sleep continuity. It's important to remember that not everyone responds to the same scents in the same way. This is due to olfactory memory, which is shaped by your unique life experiences, emotional associations, and even cultural background. For one person, the smell of vanilla might be soothing because it reminds them of their grandmother's baking. For another, it may trigger hunger or alertness. Therefore, part of the sleep scent journey involves experimentation and self-awareness. You are essentially curating a sensory environment that speaks directly to your subconscious, and that requires tuning into what your body and mind truly respond to. The 4-7-8 breathing technique and parasympathetic activation, the practice known as the 4-7-8 breathing technique, developed by Dr. Andrew Weil and rooted in ancient pranayama traditions, is a deceptively simple yet profoundly powerful tool for triggering the body's built-in off switch and ushering in the parasympathetic response that underlies deep, restorative sleep. In our wired, always-on society, the sympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for fight or flight activation, tends to dominate our physiology from dawn until long after dusk, keeping cortisol and adrenaline circulating at levels that interfere with a natural decline into sleepiness. The 4-7-8 method works by systematically altering the balance of respiratory gases and engaging the vagus nerve, the principal highway of the parasympathetic system, thereby reducing heart rate, quieting the mind, and resetting the autonomic nervous system to a state that is optimally primed for sleep. Imagine your breath as both a signal and a lever. By adjusting the ratio of inhales to holds to exhales, you not only send a biochemical message to your brain and body that it is safe to rest, but you also pull the lever on your physiology, moving it away from hyperarousal and toward relaxation. The technique itself has 4 phases: a gentle, measured inhale through the nose lasting 4 seconds, an intentional retention of that breath for a count of 7 seconds, and a prolonged exhale through the mouth, complete with a slight constriction of the throat, like blowing through a straw, for 8 seconds. Each cycle is then repeated 4 times, although with practice and under non-stressful conditions, many people extend to 6 or even 8 cycles. What makes this pattern so effective is its direct impact on the carbon dioxide to oxygen ratio in the blood. By holding the breath after inhalation, carbon dioxide levels rise slightly, which paradoxically creates a tranquilizing effect on the brain. Elevated carbon dioxide dilates blood vessels, including the cerebral vasculature, and thereby improves cerebral blood flow. This mild cerebral hypercapnia is perceived by the body's homeostatic systems not as a threat, but as a cue to downshift into parasympathetic dominance. In essence, you are using a natural, internal mechanism to trigger the very state you crave for sleep: slower heart rate, reduced blood pressure, and a calm, open mental landscape. From a neuroscientific perspective, the vagus nerve, often called the wandering nerve due to its extensive network throughout the body, carries sensory information from the organs directly to the brainstem's nucleus tractus solitarius. When activated by slow, deep breathing, the vagus nerve increases vagal tone, a measure of parasympathetic activity, which in turn inhibits the release of norepinephrine and cortisol. High vagal tone is associated with improved emotion regulation, reduced anxiety, and enhanced resilience to stress. Over time, regular practice of 4-7-8 breathing can lead to neuroplastic changes in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, improving one's ability to shift out of fight or flight reactivity more quickly and with less conscious effort. This neuroplastic adaptation is akin to muscle memory. The more you practice, the more your nervous system learns to default to a relaxed state when it perceives the breathing pattern, even if you are in a mildly stressful situation. Psychologically, the 4-7-8 practice also serves as a form of mindfulness meditation, albeit highly structured. By focusing attention on the counting, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 7, exhale 1, 2, 8. You anchor awareness to the present moment, preventing the mind from wandering into worries about tomorrow or regrets about yesterday. This simple focus is enough to interrupt cognitive hyperarousal, the mental racing that keeps so many people trapped in bed in a state of frustrated wakefulness. Cognitive hyperarousal is characterized by persistent, repetitive thought patterns, worry loops, that are both self-reinforcing and resistant to purely cognitive interventions. Breathing techniques like 4-7-8 bypass those loops entirely by engaging the body's feedback systems first. The calming of physiological arousal then feeds back to quiet the mind, creating a virtuous cycle of relaxation. Implementing the 4-7-8 technique is straightforward but must be done with consistent, intentional practice. To begin, find a quiet, comfortable position. Sitting in bed with your back supported or lying flat on your back with a pillow under your knees works best. Place the tip of your tongue behind your upper teeth, just above the gum line. Maintain this tongue posture throughout the exercise to ensure smooth, unforced inhalations and exhalations. Next, exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound. Then close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose for a mental count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7, keeping your body relaxed and your shoulders down. Finally, exhale through your mouth again, making the same whooshing sound for a count of 8. That completes one breath cycle. Repeat the cycle 3 more times for a total of 4 complete breaths. If you feel lightheaded, pause for a full breath and resume when you feel steady. Over time, the exercise will become easier and more comfortable. On a biochemical level, the extended exhalation in the 4-7-8 cycle stimulates the release of nitric oxide in the sinuses and lungs, which further dilates blood vessels and improves oxygen delivery to tissues. Nitric oxide has been shown to reduce inflammation, support immune function, and even enhance cognitive performance upon waking. Moreover, the gentle hypoxia reduced oxygen induced by the breath hold phase may stimulate the production of erythropoietin and other growth factors, promoting tissue repair during sleep. While these biochemical pathways are still being elucidated, the cumulative evidence points to multi-system benefits that extend well beyond mere relaxation. From a behavioral science perspective, the beauty of 4-7-8 breathing lies in its accessibility and cost-free nature. Anyone, anywhere, at any time can use this method without the need for devices, supplements, or specialized environments. It is the ultimate democratization of relaxation, empowering individuals to harness their own physiology for better sleep. This stands in stark contrast to the growing dependence on pharmacological sleep aids, which often carry risks of tolerance, dependency, and adverse side effects. By teaching people to recalibrate their nervous systems through breath alone, we foster a sense of self-efficacy that extends into other domains of health and well-being. Culturally, the resurgence of interest in breathwork reflects a broader societal shift towards holistic health, where mental, emotional, and physical well-being are viewed as interdependent. In workplaces, schools, and clinical settings, breathing practices are being integrated into stress management programs, and emerging research suggests that regular breathwork can reduce burnout, improve focus, and even boost creativity. When applied to sleep, these benefits compound. Better rest leads to clearer thinking and greater emotional resilience, which in turn makes it easier to maintain healthy daily habits, creating a positive feedback loop of well-being. In conclusion, mastering the 4-7-8 breathing technique is akin to rediscovering an ancient key to your own physiology, one that unlocks the door to profound rest, mental clarity, and emotional balance. It is a practice that requires no payment, no special equipment, and no prescription, only your breath, your attention, and your willingness to engage in a simple sequence that has the power to transform your nights and, by extension, your days. Try it tonight. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, and listen as your body and mind drift together into the sanctuary of deep sleep. Cognitive shuffling, the neuroscience of distracting the mind into sleep. Sleep, contrary to popular belief, is not simply a passive shutdown process. It is a neurologically orchestrated disengagement of conscious thought, a fading of structured cognition into a state of disorganized mental imagery and sensory disconnection. The reason so many people struggle to fall asleep, despite physical tiredness, is because their cognitive engine keeps running, often in a goal-directed, analytical, or emotionally charged mode. This state is known in sleep science as cognitive arousal, a phenomenon that triggers and maintains insomnia. Thoughts about work, relationships, worries about the future, or ruminations about the past flood the mind, lighting up the prefrontal cortex and default mode network DMN, regions that remain active during wakefulness, and even light sleep if left unchecked. The key, therefore, is to disrupt this structured thinking and gently lead the mind into the kind of randomized cognitive drift that characterizes natural sleep onset. This is where the technique of cognitive shuffling comes into play. Coined and popularized by cognitive scientist Luc Baudouin, cognitive shuffling is a structured method of mentally scrambling your thoughts in a way that mimics the nonsensical and image-based thinking patterns that precede sleep. The technique draws from principles in neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and even dream science, and it has shown promise not only in helping people fall asleep faster, but also in improving the overall quality of sleep by easing the transition from beta to alpha and theta brain waves. At its core, cognitive shuffling involves mentally listing a random sequence of unrelated, concrete objects or concepts, usually starting with a specific letter. For example, if you pick the letter B, your sequence might look like balloon, bear, banana, boat, blanket. The idea is to visualize each item briefly, not analyze or narrate. Just picture it in your mind's eye, then move on to the next one. Why does this work? Because structured thoughts, such as planning tomorrow's to-do list or replaying an uncomfortable conversation, engage the executive function centers of the brain, keeping you in wakeful consciousness. Unstructured, nonsensical, or random thoughts, by contrast, deactivate the DMN, decrease coherence in the prefrontal cortex, and shift neural activity toward more dreamlike processing, especially in the posterior hot zone of the brain, an area linked with early stages of dream formation and visual imagery. This is similar to what naturally happens as we drift into sleep. The brain gradually lets go of narrative structure and logic, giving way to bizarre, fragmented, and symbolic imagery. Cognitive shuffling is essentially a man-made gateway into this neurocognitive landscape. To apply cognitive shuffling effectively, there are some key principles that enhance its effectiveness. 1. Choose words that are visual and non-emotional. Avoid words that carry emotional weight or abstract meaning. Fear, love, death, or even success might activate emotional circuits. Instead, choose tangible nouns, items you can easily picture in your mind: apple, tire, shovel, clock, etc. The more neutral and visual, the better. 2. Use alphabet anchoring. Pick a random letter of the alphabet and generate visual nouns starting with that letter. You can use apps like My Sleep Button, developed by Baudouin himself, or simply go through the alphabet in your mind. This acts as a cognitive scaffold. It gives your brain a task, but not one complex enough to trigger wakefulness. 3. Limit visualization to 3 to 5 seconds per image. Do not get lost in storytelling or overanalyzing the objects. This isn't a creative writing exercise. It's a mental decoupling tool. Visualize the object quickly. Maybe imagine holding or seeing it, and move on. This keeps your thought patterns from becoming rigid or associative, which would defeat the purpose. 4. Engage in sensory imagination. Try to add color, texture, or spatial depth to the visualization. Imagine a blue umbrella flapping in the wind, or a cold can of soda in your hand. This activates right hemisphere visual spatial processing, which promotes relaxation and shuts down the analytical left hemisphere. 5. Maintain a passive attitude. This cannot be overstated. Cognitive shuffling is not a game to be won. If you try too hard to fall asleep, you activate the very performance anxiety that undermines sleep onset. Let go of the outcome and just focus on the mental sequence. If your mind wanders, that's great. That means the technique is working. On a biochemical level, cognitive shuffling reduces activation in the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, lowering cortisol and adrenaline secretion. Since thoughts drive emotions, and emotions drive physiological states, by feeding your brain neutral, non-stimulating thoughts, you prevent the emotional arousal that delays sleep. It also reduces mental time travel, the tendency to ruminate on the past or catastrophize the future, both of which are core cognitive distortions in insomnia, anxiety, and depression. It also aligns beautifully with principles from mindfulness-based cognitive therapy (MBCT) and acceptance and commitment therapy (ACT). Both modalities teach that experiential avoidance, trying to suppress or control thoughts, often backfires. Cognitive shuffling doesn't fight the thoughts. It replaces the cognitive channel. Instead of trying to quiet your mind an impossible task, you redirect its attention to something inherently sleep conducive. You essentially lull the brain to sleep the same way a parent distracts a restless child into calmness. There's also a powerful habit-forming advantage to this practice. When used consistently, cognitive shuffling becomes a conditioned sleep cue, much like a favorite pillow or a familiar bedtime sound. The brain begins to associate the mental pattern with sleep, making the process increasingly automatic. For frequent travelers or those with inconsistent routines, this portability is priceless. No matter where you are, a hotel room, a plane, or a different time zone, your brain knows what to do when you begin your mental list. Tree, table, Tomato, train. In essence, cognitive shuffling is not about shutting the brain off. It's about giving it a new channel, one that mimics the architecture of sleep itself. You lead your thoughts into nonsense, and in that nonsense, the logic of rest is found. It's the bridge between structured thinking and the dream world, between waking and sleeping, between chaos and calm. No supplements, no soundtracks, no tech, just the one thing you've always had, your imagination. So, tonight, as you lie in bed and your thoughts begin to spiral, don't fight them. Instead, pick a letter, maybe C, and start carrot, cupcake, castle, candle, cloud, and with each word, with each soft image, you inch closer to the boundary where thought dissolves and sleep begins. Mastering core body temperature, the thermoregulatory key to deep sleep. Sleep is not merely a mental activity, it is an orchestrated physiological transition governed by intricate rhythms within the body, one of the most powerful among them being core body temperature. While often overlooked, the decline of internal body temperature in the evening is one of the strongest biological signals the brain uses to initiate sleep and enter deeper stages such as slow-wave sleep (SWS) and REM sleep. In fact, some sleep scientists argue that temperature regulation is not just part of sleep. It may be the trigger that opens the neurological gate to unconsciousness. Understanding and leveraging this natural decline in temperature can mean the difference between restless tossing and turning and deep, dream-filled sleep that leaves you refreshed. To begin with, the human body operates on a circadian rhythm, a 24-hour biological clock regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus (SCN) in the hypothalamus. This master clock controls fluctuations in various physiological systems, including hormone secretion, blood pressure, heart rate, and, crucially, body temperature. During the day, your body temperature remains relatively elevated to promote alertness, movement, and cognitive function. But as evening approaches, your body begins a subtle cooling process. This is known as nocturnal thermoregulation. Starting around 2 hours before your natural bedtime, the body begins to lose heat through a process called distal vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels in the hands, feet, and face, which allows heat to escape through the skin. This drop in core temperature, typically about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit, 0.5 to 1 degree Celsius, is not incidental. It's essential for sleep onset. From a neurochemical standpoint, this temperature drop acts as a cue for the pineal gland to release melatonin, the sleep-regulating hormone. Melatonin doesn't just induce drowsiness. It also reinforces the body's natural tendency to cool down by further enhancing heat loss through the skin. Think of melatonin as a thermoregulatory messenger that tells the body, it's time to slow down, cool down, and sleep. However, if the environment or your behaviors interfere with this process, such as by wearing tight, warm clothing, using heavy bedding, eating late, or engaging in stimulating activities, your body may struggle to reach the thermal threshold required to fall asleep. This is why thermoregulation is not optional, it's foundational. So, how do we work with this biological rhythm instead of against it? Counterintuitively, one of the most effective ways to cool the core body temperature is to take a warm shower or bath approximately 90 minutes before bedtime. Though this sounds contradictory, using heat to cool the body, the science is solid. Warm water causes peripheral vasodilation, which draws blood toward the skin's surface. When you step out of the warm environment, the surrounding cooler air accelerates heat loss, leading to a faster and more significant drop in core body temperature. This drop signals the brain that the conditions are right for sleep. A 2019 meta-analysis published in Sleep Medicine Reviews showed that people who took a warm bath around 104-109 degrees Fahrenheit or 40-43 degrees Celsius 1 to 2 hours before bed not only fell asleep faster, but also experienced greater sleep efficiency and more time spent in stage N3 sleep, the deepest, most restorative stage. Temperature doesn't just affect sleep onset, it shapes the architecture of your entire night's rest. During deep sleep, your thermoregulatory responses are blunted, meaning the body loses the ability to regulate its temperature efficiently. That's why sleeping in a room that is too hot or too cold can cause microarousals, brief periods of wakefulness that fragment sleep and prevent you from reaching or maintaining the deepest sleep stages. The ideal ambient bedroom temperature for most adults lies between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit 15 to 19 degrees Celsius. Within this range, the brain is best able to remain in deep sleep without thermal disruption. Going even 1 or 2 degrees outside this optimal window can decrease slow wave sleep, increase tossing and turning, and lead to a feeling of grogginess upon waking. Beyond external temperature, what you sleep on and under matters greatly. Mattresses that trap heat, synthetic sheets, and thick comforters can trap heat against the body, raising core temperature and impeding thermoregulation. Modern sleep science recommends breathable bedding materials such as cotton, bamboo, or linen, which wick away moisture and allow for better airflow. Additionally, dual zone bedding systems are becoming popular for couples who have different temperature preferences, enabling each sleeper to maintain their own thermal microclimate. For those who run hot at night or experience night sweats, cooling mattress pads and pillow technologies infused with gel or phase change materials (PCMs) can passively regulate skin contact temperature throughout the night. Let's not forget the chronobiological implications. People with delayed sleep phase disorder (DSPD) or shift workers often suffer from disrupted temperature rhythms. For them, intentional temperature manipulation can be a lifeline. A warm bath timed correctly, exposure to natural light in the morning, and sleeping in a cold, dark room at night can re-entrain their circadian system over time, shifting their internal night to match societal norms or their preferred lifestyle. In clinical settings, temperature regulation is even used as part of chronotherapy, a form of treatment for circadian rhythm sleep disorders. Interestingly, recent studies have shown that thermoregulation affects dreams as well. Warmer sleeping environments are linked to lighter sleep and more vivid dreams, while cooler temperatures are associated with longer periods of deep sleep and dream consolidation. For people suffering from nightmares, PTSD-related sleep disturbances, or REM behavior disorder, optimizing room temperature can play a pivotal role in emotionally restorative dreaming. So how do you begin incorporating this step into your sleep lifestyle? Start with your evening environment. Take a warm bath or shower 90 minutes before bed. Set your thermostat to between 60-67 degrees Fahrenheit before you enter your bedroom. Sleep in breathable fabrics. Avoid synthetic tight clothes. Use a cooling pillow and lightweight comforter. Avoid exercise or hot food within 2 hours of bedtime, as they raise core body temperature. Crack a window slightly to promote airflow if your room tends to get stuffy. And most importantly, listen to your body. Some individuals may have different thermal sensitivity thresholds due to hormonal fluctuations, metabolic rate, or underlying health conditions like hypothyroidism or perimenopause. Temperature is both biological and subjective. It must be optimized, not standardized. In conclusion, if we think of sleep as a neurological ballet, temperature is the music that sets the pace. It influences the timing, depth, and harmony of every sleep phase. While supplements, screens, and schedules may get all the attention in mainstream sleep advice, The ancient and elegant system of thermoregulation remains one of the most reliable, natural, and powerful levers we can pull. And best of all, it doesn't cost a thing, just awareness, intentionality, and respect for the rhythms your body already knows. Tonight, let your body do what it was evolutionarily designed to do. Cool down, slow down, and surrender to sleep. Anchor your wake time, the circadian keystone of deep sleep mastery. Of all the techniques available to improve the quality, depth, and regularity of your sleep, none is more profoundly impactful, and yet more consistently underestimated, than anchoring your wake-up time. It may sound paradoxical, but in sleep science, waking up at the same time every day is more important than when you go to bed. This principle lies at the heart of circadian rhythm regulation, and it influences everything from how quickly you fall asleep at night to the richness of your dream states, your energy throughout the day, and even your long-term mental health. Let's begin with the biology of the circadian rhythm. The human body operates on an intrinsic 24-hour cycle controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus (SCN) in the hypothalamus, the brain's master clock. This internal clock orchestrates not just sleep and wakefulness, but also hormone secretions such as melatonin and cortisol, body temperature, metabolism, mood, immune function, and cognitive alertness. The SCN receives its strongest external input from light, particularly natural sunlight, which resets the circadian rhythm each morning. When your brain registers morning light, it signals the pineal gland to suppress melatonin, the sleep hormone, and stimulate the release of cortisol and dopamine, both of which energize you and signal that the day phase has begun. Now, here's where the principle of wake time anchoring becomes critical. Your body needs consistency to optimize these daily hormonal rhythms. If you wake up at 6:30 a.m. one day, 9 a.m. the next, and noon on the weekend, your SCN receives inconsistent signals, creating a state of circadian misalignment, akin to self-imposed jet lag. This disrupts the entire sleep-wake cycle. Your body becomes confused about when to release melatonin in the evening, leading to delayed sleep onset, lighter sleep stages, more awakenings, and, ultimately, daytime fatigue. What's especially fascinating is that studies show wake time, not sleep duration, is the most reliable predictor of circadian stability. When people attempt to catch up on sleep by sleeping in on weekends or after late nights, they inadvertently shift their circadian phase, making it harder to fall asleep at a regular time the next night. This phenomenon, known as social jet lag, has been linked to higher rates of depression, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular dysfunction. Even just a 1 to 2 hour shift in wake time between weekdays and weekends can throw off the body's internal rhythm. This is why the most successful sleep improvement protocols, whether from CBTI cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, chronotherapy, or performance sleep coaching, emphasize waking up at the same time every single day, regardless of bedtime. But consistency alone isn't enough. What you do within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up determines how well your body will be prepared to fall asleep that night. This period is known in neuroscience as the circadian anchor window, a time when the body is highly sensitive to environmental cues known as Zeitgebers, German for time givers. The strongest of these is sunlight, especially blue light frequencies around 480 nm, which suppress melatonin and synchronize your internal clock with the solar day. Just 10 to 15 minutes of outdoor morning light or 30 minutes through a window signals to the brain that it's time to be alert, thus triggering a full day's rhythm of wakefulness, appetite regulation, body temperature control, and hormone secretion. In addition to sunlight, other Zeitgebers include physical movement, even light, stretching, or walking, consistent eating schedules, social interaction or vocal communication, cognitive stimulation reading, journaling, affirmations. When these are practiced immediately after a consistent wake-up time, your body locks into a predictable cycle. This creates what scientists call circadian entrainment, where internal processes are perfectly aligned with external time cues, promoting better mood, energy, digestion, and most importantly, deeper, more restorative sleep at night. Now, you might be wondering, what if I didn't get enough sleep? Should I still wake up at the same time? The answer, surprisingly, is yes, at least if long-term sleep improvement is your goal. While it may be tempting to sleep in after a late night, doing so will disrupt the next night's sleep, making it harder to maintain continuity. Instead, wake up at your regular time, and if necessary, take a short nap 20 to 30 minutes in the early afternoon. This will preserve your circadian rhythm while offering a recovery boost without affecting sleep pressure at night. Let's talk about sleep pressure for a moment. This concept, rooted in the two-process model of sleep regulation, refers to the accumulation of adenosine in the brain throughout the day. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine builds up, increasing your desire and ability to sleep at night. Waking up consistently ensures that you spend the right number of waking hours building that pressure. If you sleep in, you reduce sleep pressure, making it harder to fall asleep at your target bedtime. Anchoring your wake time also improves sleep architecture, the structure and distribution of your sleep stages. When your circadian clock is stable, your body enters N3 deep sleep earlier in the night and spends more uninterrupted time in this restorative stage. This is crucial for memory consolidation, immune repair, and emotional processing. Furthermore, your REM sleep, where most dreaming occurs, tends to lengthen toward the latter part of the night and early morning hours. If you wake inconsistently or use an alarm that interrupts REM, you deprive yourself of cognitive and emotional benefits that are only accessed in those later cycles. So how can you implement this step in real life, especially with busy or irregular schedules? Practical strategies to anchor wake time. Set a wake-up time and stick to it, even on weekends. Aim for no more than a 15 to 30-minute difference day to day. Use a natural light alarm clock, sunrise simulator, or open your blinds as soon as possible. Step outside within 30 minutes of waking, even for 5 to 10 minutes. No sunglasses. Let your eyes absorb full spectrum light. Avoid snoozing. Snooze cycles fragment REM and cause confusion in the brain's wake-sleep control centers. Hydrate immediately to reawaken the metabolic system. Move your body, even if it's a few yoga poses or a brisk walk. Eat a consistent breakfast. Feeding schedules are powerful circadian signals to the digestive and endocrine systems. Engage your mind. Journaling, affirmations, or reading primes your cognition for a wakeful day. Another important consideration is that wake time anchoring must be protected with the same discipline people often apply to bedtime rituals. If your job, travel, or social life forces late nights, plan accordingly. Still wake up at your set time and catch up with a controlled nap or earlier bedtime the following night. Over time, your body will begin to wake naturally at the same time, even without an alarm, a sign that your circadian rhythm is fully entrained. In the long run, this single habit ripples across your health. Stable wake times improve mental health, reduce systemic inflammation, strengthen the immune system, and regulate blood sugar and hormone cycles. In fact, research shows that even without changing sleep duration, individuals who maintain a fixed wake time report better mood, lower anxiety, and improved memory. In conclusion, while modern culture emphasizes night routines for better sleep, The real secret lies in what happens each morning. By anchoring your wake time, you provide your brain and body with the clarity, rhythm, and predictability it craves. You no longer chase sleep. You build a life that invites it. And over time, this one habit transforms not just your nights, but your days, your energy, and your sense of wholeness. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm rings, resist the urge to roll over. Rise, hydrate, greet the light, and begin the rhythm anew, for that is the rhythm of life itself.